This video is not made for kids. It's designed to be suitable for all audiences, but quite frankly, the FTC scares me. So this video is an adult's perspective on Prodigy and a review from that perspective and for other adults and parents, but not necessarily parents. Hello and welcome back to another Prodigy review where as we come to the sad realization that somebody told Paramount Plus about daylight savings time, I just have to say, I really like, sure, there's gonna be about 3 really hard weeks of Discovery and Prodigy coming up, but after that, my winter break happens, and all of my double bill episodes, I can just get out of the way in winter break, and then they'll be done right in time for my winter quarter to start, and I'll only have one show to cover every Thursday. Oh, and it's a Prodigy video, so I can't even do a swear fake out. FTC? So yes, apparently, rather than being 10 episodes, Prodigy Season 1 is going to be 20 episodes, but it's going to have a really weird release schedule. There's this video, and then next week, so episodes 4 and 5, which is only going to show up as 4 episodes on Paramount Plus, because they're counting the first episode as 2. That's going to be it. Then there's going to be just that first week of Discovery. Next week, we're going to get Discovery and Prodigy. And then Prodigy is done until, you guessed it, that first week of Winter Quarter, where Prodigy comes back for the remaining 5 episodes of what's kind of part 1 of Season 1, part 2. Really confusing. It then goes away. That's the week before Discovery ends, just on my phone here. So really close to the start of Picard. Prodigy then goes away for an undisclosed amount of time until sometime later in 2022, which is really weird. I think kids shows often do that weird release schedule. Steven Universe had a really weird one, if I remember correctly. I didn't watch it when it came out, but I think they had it weird the other way, where they'd regularly do things like, let's just release a new episode every day for the next 2 weeks. And they're like, all right, our show is done. Well, here's the movie. Bam. Oh, here's the epilogue series. Bam. There was like no time. They did a really weird release schedule where it came out really quickly. Prodigy is just going to come out very, very slowly. And basically when I'm as busy as possible with school. So we'll see how that goes. Dreamcatcher episode 4. Let's get a start on that, even though it looks like episode 3. You know what? Just wait till I come back in January and have to explain the situation again. By the way, I'll link the picture I put up of the Prodigy schedule. I'll link that article in the description if you want to read up on it. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. Ancient Hirogen civilization was knowledgeable and possessed advanced technology. Citation needed edit. However, by the 24th century, there was no evidence of them identifying with a homeworld. Their nomadic existence was driven by the pursuit of prey. See, I thought so, but I couldn't remember if we ever figured out what happened to their homeworld, if it was a Xindi situation or whatever, but I guess now we know why they left. And it got me thinking, are the Hirogen is a hunter species, basically just like massively overcompensating for the fact their planet is a hunter? Like they must have spent thousands of years just being hunted by the planet, and then when they finally got off the planet, they're like, right, no, we're done. No one can find out about this. We must become the hunters. Anyway, that was a great episode. I really liked that one. A proper mystery, proper strange new world, really. It was a great episode all in all. And I always remember, the first episode is a pretty standard formulaic first episode. The second episode is, oh yeah, the second episode's the slow one. And then the third one, we really get to see what the show is like. And I'm really liking the show. Also a cliffhanger episode, so a parts 1 and 2 sort of thing. Thinking about it, the next part will probably then be some sort of major cliffhanger. Like they get captured, or the big bad ship shows up. But yeah, I really like the concept of this planet, actually. That's something I wasn't expecting from Prodigy. Not that I wasn't not expecting it, I guess, but I think that was probably the most interesting planet concept I've seen in Star Trek of the modern era. Off the top of my head, actually, I can't really come up with many concepts in Star Trek that made me go, that's a fascinating concept. Like, I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure people will point them out in the comments. Doctor Who's had some interesting ones, and especially Doctor Who's Big Finish stuff. It made me some that maybe sit back and go, that's a really nice concept. I really liked the concept of the planet that was just like carnivorous vines that like just attracted people to the planet, made it paradise, and then ate them. Arguably, maybe not a completely original concept. The Shore Leave, was that the name of the TOS episode? Had the planet that did that? In TAS, they revisited that planet with like the Alice in Wonderland rabbit and stuff. A sentient planet, I think, is a new thing to Star Trek. I mean, it wasn't the planet, it was like the vines and stuff, the plants, but functionally sort of a sentient planet is new to Star Trek, not really new from a sci-fi perspective, but I haven't ever seen quite this combination of all these ideas. And I really liked it, and it was just executed well. I'm also thinking this is an interesting show. I'm obviously not the target audience, but the people who will grow up and kind of have Prodigy be their first show, first Star Trek show. It's an amazing entry point to the universe. It's designed to be that. But in parts, it's like, this is what a tricorder does. This is what the combat does. I'm not going to think of any of the examples now, but just the Janeway training hologram, maybe a bit more direct exposition, and that's why I will grant you, probably because it is a kid show, than some other shows might do. But it's still a very nice, for such a huge, complex universe, even for people, adults joining in the modern times, to be like, what is a tricorder? What is like all this random stuff? But my point is, it'll be interesting to have people start with Prodigy, know it really well, and then move on to the adult shows, I guess you'd call them, and actually kind of know what everything is going in. It's a weird bit. It's nice, but it's kind of weird from my perspective to have that background knowledge going into Star Trek. I will say, though, it was interesting. Unless I've heard this wrong, I mean, Discovery's trans worms, as I heard and had written my poorly explained script, to learn later they are trance worms and not trans worms, which was very unfortunate. Really, I would have preferred trans worms. But it was very weird to have the planet set on in the Hirogen system, which, following basically all Star Trek naming conventions, would be the home planet of the Hirogen, or at least their home system, and then not have that come up. Like Janeway said, the Hirogen system. It's like an M-class planet. We know nothing about it. And it's like, I mean, technically that's true, but also, I think I got a pretty good guess. Like, if you know enough about the planet to know it's called the Hirogen system, you'd probably know enough to know the Hirogen are from there. You've also probably noticed I've gotten a bit quieter and less emotive because it is rather late and I am still in a dorm, and I think I might be annoying the singular neighbor that I have. I also thought the villain, I guess if you can call it that, was a very nice design overall, well executed. Again, maybe not necessarily, it wasn't like a brand new thing I'd never seen before. A lot of the movements are vaguely familiar. It's not like I've never seen tentacly, planty evil done before, but it was just all the ideas put together very nicely. Which, quite frankly, watching the new Doctor Who's as they come out, I'll take that. That's a blessing. I quite liked Zero as well. We got a bit more characterization on Zero, and there was a bit when they were leaving the hedge maze, I'll call it, the evil hedge maze, where Zero was like, wow, this planet is amazing. And it is, I agree. It was like a fascinating planet as a concept. I got very 10th Doctor vibes. I had just listened to the first 10th Doctor audio adventures from Big Finish. I got the David Tennant vibes. Like, yeah, this thing is trying to kill us, but also it's brilliant and it's beautiful and it's new and it's fantastic because of it. It's also just occurred to me, I don't think they'll go that route. Because this is kind of a part 1 of 2, they may actually tie back to the Hirogen in some way. There's a chance they'll do something with it, but I think it's just an Easter egg, essentially. I felt like I had a lot to say going into this video, and now that I'm here, I'm struggling to think of all those general thoughts. So, you know what? Let's just move into the scene by scene and see if anything jogs my memory. I'll say I do kind of enjoy the teacher Janeway kind of thing, that character. Definitely constrained from the fact it's not actually Janeway, it's a holographic program, so real Janeway probably would have caught on that maybe these aren't cadets. Like, I'm sure Holo Janeway probably has her suspicions she'll bring up later. But I feel she is very much the more confined to the program of, I'm a holographic training program and I will teach. And it's fine. I think she does it well. And the Doctor took quite a while to really start breaking out of his programming. Like, he always had some air of sentience or a bit above what he was programmed to, but he really took a while to get out of that doctor role. So it makes sense that Janeway would take a little while, always kind of be the co-captain, the first officer, I guess you'd call it. Always serve the first officer role, but won't really do much outside of her programming for the first little bit. Who was it in-universe, the in-universe starship designer, who decided, you know what? One leg. Like, you could make it work. It kind of feels like it's got some automatic stabilization, like it pivots on that leg. Like, yeah, you could make it work. Well, here. See, you could make it work. But the point is, particularly in like an a landing situation, I feel like you don't want to have to make it work. And there's not a lot of redundancy built in. Like, I don't know, especially for such a powerful ship, which, might I remind you, actually did crash land in the Delta Quadrant. Like, who went one leg? All we need, one leg. And yeah, my Equinox came. All my old models, my new models are starting to arrive, so expect those videos. As not just a fan, but someone who's had to put together little LCARs for all the series, can I just give massive shoutouts to Prodigy for all the pictures like this? Like, I think it's better than any other Star Trek series, both past and present, it like showing us the LCARs. Like, yeah, the other series were so long running, you get a really good idea, and you get plenty of close-ups of like TNG and stuff. Actually thinking about it, yeah, TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, they did a great job too. But Prodigy is like, we're 4 episodes in, technically 3, and at like episode 2, the first one with the ship, I already had a fantastic idea of what the LCARs look like, so that is going to make me having to make the poorly explained graphics very happy. You know what I've also just realized? It reminds me a lot of T-cards, the Time Travel Police's LCARs, but with Starfleet's LCAR style of the rounds and stuff, because T-cars were very angular and triangular. This almost feels like T-cars version 1.0. I don't think it's a time travel thing involved, but that's rather interesting. And that reminded me, we actually figured out how the Tellurite got here. Because there's the line when he was in Yoda's hut about something like the grub is just like on the Teller sleeper ship. I'm not entirely sure why sleeper ship served glove. Actually, he was probably on the engineering team, which is why he's an engineer now. Brilliant bit of characterization. Yeah, that's how he got here. He was on an old sleeper ship, presumably before the United Federation planets, and that is what I wanted to look up. I've remembered now. Actually, I think I've just remembered myself, but Friendship 1, yeah, launched from Earth 2067, which is just a few years after first contact, yeah. And so if a Teller ship, roughly on par with Earth history, a Teller sleeper ship launched to the Delta Quadrant for some reason, science, whatever, around the same time as Friendship 1, it would arrive, around... actually, that's why I wanted to check. When did Friendship 1 reach the Delta Quadrant? It doesn't say, but if I remember rightly, Starfleet tracked Friendship 1 to Voyager's position. It doesn't give the year for that one. In 2378. So, I don't know, roughly, let's just call it like 10, 20 years before this episode. But yeah, the point is, the timelines match up, roughly, so that a sleeper ship launched just before the formation of the Federation of Planets would make it to the Delta Quadrant, before Prodigy. So, yeah, now I'm happy. Now we know how a Tellurite got here. Specifically with knowledge of other Tellurites and Tellurite culture, because that was the big problem. But Tellurite sleeper ship, of course he'd know. Here's my complaint for the episode. They didn't really do anything with the spaceship. Like, the whole point was, Zero said at the end, the spores they encountered is kind of what started the plants attacking them. I can't remember the exact reason. But you got a character in like a full spacesuit, presumably sealed, like hermetically sealed, and he doesn't take off his helmet until he gets into the hut, which itself seems to be a hallucination. If not, the food definitely is. Like, why have him in the spaceship spacesuit if you're not going to do anything with it, especially when that's a plot point you have of like spores. Now, my counter to that is he has absolutely no idea what he's doing, so he actually turned on his suit to be like hermetically sealed, so it's not airtight. I'm a Trekkie, I come up with solutions. It works, but it's also weird that I kind of have to come up with the solution, Like, that's all story writing, really. Like, sure, we could, as fans, come up with the headcanons and fixing the plot holes. The point is, we shouldn't have to. But I mean, that's like my one complaint for the entire story. I mean, we had our first fart joke, you know, that's basically a milestone for a kid show. But this is my big main complaint. Now I'm saying that. Does Steven Universe have fart jokes? It's gotta. Anyway, yeah, this is like my one complaint, so yeah, I'll take that. What Star Trek episode doesn't have a complaint? Genuinely, if you can think of a Star Trek episode you have no complaint for, tell me in the comments, because I want to know if I can have a complaint for it or not. I know these aren't real. I was going to make a comment on how merchandisable and adorable they are, but can you imagine, like, what this must be for this perspective of creatures like this? Like, Rock Talk's so adorable and huggy and cuddly, but, like, go outside and rub your face in a pile of pebbles and that's probably what it's like for these creatures. That's a sad life, you know, when like these creatures are not going to want to be hugged at all. Raise your hands if you thought this is something we'd be getting when you heard Captain Janeway returning to Star Trek Prodigy. I'm not complaining, but it's interesting. Oh, I figured out what it is. I was going to say, I think I figured out why the Protostar works so well for me as a ship, and this is why. Hang on. There we go. Like, it's got a lot of the general shapes and proportions of the Equinox changed to be different enough, you know, but just kind of the way the body works, the size. I mean, you'd have to kind of squish this down, pull it out. I might have mentioned this in my video on the Protostar, the announcement trailer that had that, but I've just realized, you know what it is? It's the Enterprise F. I'll put this lazy screen cap up big right now, but it's the curves, it's that neck bit, sort of the necky pylons the F has. That's not exactly what the Protostar has, but everything, the proportions, the nacelles, the pylons and everything. The Protostar works for me so much because it's the Enterprise F, and I love the Enterprise F. Despite not having brought the model with me, I love the Enterprise F, and that's why the Protostar is working so much for me. Eagle Moss, can't wait for that model. I'm so happy now that I've realized that. And yeah, nice little cliffhanger ending. I will say, the bit at the end where Dol goes up to Gwen is like, "You've stranded us all." It's like, I get they don't know what happened on the Protostar, and sure, they didn't help. I don't know if the Protostar has transporters or not, but like maybe they could have beamed back to the ship. But also, like, you know, they saw the vines and stuff. Like, that wasn't Gwen. Like, yes, Gwen is responsible for a lot, you know, calling her dad back. She also saved Murph. You know, I like that. Again, the subtle characterization that the new Doctor Who is really making me crave is, you know, how terrified she was with Murph and just, of course, going back to save him. Oh, loads of unspoken bits that, yeah, may come up next episode more directly. But loads of just brilliant little unspoken characterizations. Show don't tell, that's the famous phrase. That tell us a lot about Gwen, and also I like Murph, how Murph behaves, basically the pet of the ship. I think the Prodigy announcements and stuff described Murph as a familiar was the word they used, Rock Talk's familiar. But I really like that. I can't wait to watch the next episode, Jungle Moon, of... No, so many Steven Universe jokes. If you made it this far, go ahead and click my iCard. I pointed to the right part of the screen. There's a Steven Universe thing with me you might want to check out. But yeah, with that, remember, next week... Actually, that's a good point. I wanted to mention that. The next week's Prodigy video will probably be delayed because it's the first episode of Discovery Season 4. I want to focus on that, and I will not have the energy. I highly doubt I'll have the energy for Discovery and Prodigy videos. It's just come out too late and take too long to make. So Discovery reactions will probably come out like 2, 3 a.m. when these normally do. It'll probably take me a lot longer to do as well because it's the first episode. So yeah, that'll come out sometime very early Thursday morning. Thursday, very early a.m. I will then probably go to bed and then make Prodigy in the morning. So it's hard to say when I'll get up. Like, if you get it at noon, you'd be lucky. Yeah, it's really hard to say, but basically the Prodigy reaction will go out mid-late day Thursday. These have actually been doing a lot better than I thought, and people seem to enjoying them. Loads of engagement on the last episode, which was great. I think part of that might be not many other people are reviewing Prodigy, so you got me by default. But yeah, I'm very happy. I'll keep doing Prodigy. It's just next week. You'll get Discovery. Don't panic, because I am doing Prodigy. It's just later. And am I going to do that in January? I don't know. I want to do both, but we'll see what takes priority. It might be Prodigy just for the simple fact that it's a lot quicker for me to do these than it will a 45-minute discovery video, which will probably have a lot more to talk about. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm doing my really old outro. That came out of nowhere. And I hope you'll stay tuned for more reactions, poorly explains, reviews, and whatever the heck I have time for. Thanks for watching. Where'd that old... I've been trying to remember that for ages. Where'd that intro come from? Outro, rather.